Growing up, I had a great relationship with my parents. Me and my sister and my parents, we took trips together. Always felt loved. Always felt like I had people there for me. My dad was, he was the guy that took me everywhere. We did everything together. He taught me how to drive. He took me to hockey practice. Taught me how to throw a ball. Even when there was renovations around the house or anything like that, or I wanted to build a skateboarding ramp, he was the guy to jump on it before even I was. So my sister started going to the church before anyone else in our family. And so when my mom found out that my sister wanted to go to church, she was all for it. She was all for driving her, taking her whenever she wanted to go. My sister would continue to ask me and continue to invite me out to this church thing that I just didn't want to go to. And so finally I gave in and I went. Started going every week, started helping out, started being involved with what was happening for my dad. He would see three of us be invested into going to church, into growing as Christians, and then him being on the outside, not wanting to be a part of it. Our life was moving forward in a certain direction, and my dad's just wasn't going in the same direction anymore. So the family dynamic changed because my dad, growing up, when he was really young, when he was in his young teenage years, his mom took her life, and so he grew up with a dad that turned to alcohol and to cope. And you're struggling because he took to alcohol just like his dad did. That was his coping mechanism. It got worse over time, to a point where he just began to distance himself from us. Him and my mom split up, and he ended up moving out of the house. That he didn't feel like he was enough. That he didn't feel like I could be who I need to be for my family. So I was working out of town on a job, and my phone rang, and it was a text message from my dad that said something along the lines of like, "Goodbye, I'm sorry, I love you." So I race home, and I remember my mom finding him and screaming my name that she found him. And I remember running to his truck, and he was sitting there out of it. He had taken a whole bunch of sleeping pills and was completely out of it. He ended up going to the hospital. He was in the psych ward for a couple weeks. And this just began the cycle of him in and out of hospitals, him in and out of psych treatment wards, trying to deal with the mental health that he didn't know how to deal with alone. In the times that he was in and out of the hospital, we spent a lot of time with him. Took an old Bible of mine and just found the scriptures and put a little sticky on every one of those scriptures of who God says he is, and left the Bible with him in hopes like maybe he'll read it. Like, God, whatever it takes. Like, I don't know what to do. We're gonna show him that we love him in every way possible, but at the end of the day, God, like, I don't really know what to do. I don't remember a whole lot about the day, but at one point I remember my wife was like, "Let's go see your mom. Let's just pop by." So I remember driving over, and we got there and we were hanging out for a little while, and then I remember sitting there and seeing two police officers walk by the window. And it was as if in that moment, it hit me that I knew exactly what was coming. I remember this police officers coming to the door and me running over to the door and answering, and they gave us the news that my dad had committed suicide, that he had taken his own life. And so I remember sitting on her front steps, like, not understanding what was going on. I didn't know if I should be angry at him. I didn't know if I should have empathy towards him, that he was hurting so bad that he could do something like that. Is there more I could have done? Was there a conversation that I should have had that I held back on? Should I have prayed more? I know that I was, but should I have done more? I remember crying myself to sleep for days. I remember going to worship at church on a Sunday morning and just being an absolute mess the whole time, like crying out to God, like, we needed you before, God, but we need you more than ever before. We thought we knew what God's strength was, but that's where we learned what it was. About a year into our marriage, just over a year into our marriage, we had a little baby boy. The absolute joy that comes with having a baby was met with the absolute horror of the fact he doesn't have a grandpa. But my son couldn't take the place of my dad. So what I thought was going to bring a whole lot of happiness, and does bring a whole lot of happiness, still didn't fill that void of me not having a dad. Again, we have to go, okay, God, we obviously can't do this alone. We've seen you faithful. We've seen you faithful again. God, we need you to happen. We need it again. We need it one more time. And time again, we see that faithfulness come through. Time and time again, we were met with that joy, that hope, and that love. Like, you always hear that God is good and that God is there for you and God is for you, not against you. But I really found that to be true. I really found that to be the character of God. Like, I don't think it was really until we didn't have strength to move forward that we understood what God's strength was. It's something that we're going to have to continue to fight through, but because I know who God is, I know that I'm going to be okay. We knew that we had what he needed to have. We knew that we had Jesus.